Picture this, May 25, 2025. The Vatican. It was supposed to be a moment of standard diplomatic protocol, a simple handshake between Pope Leo XIV, the first American-born pope, and Karoline Leavitt, a big name in American politics. But what happened? Well, it was anything but simple. In an instant, with cameras rolling and the world watching, Pope Leo XIV actually declined Karoline Leavitt's outstretched hand. The silence that hit the room was like a thunderclap. And into that silence, the world poured all its shock, its confusion, and a million questions. What went down in that ceremonial hall didn't just break the rules. It sent a shockwave across continents, kicking off a debate that's still going strong. Stick around as we explore what really happened in this unprecedented moment, the deeper meaning, the explosive reactions, and what both the Pope and Leavitt revealed after a gesture, or the lack of one, that truly stunned the world. So, imagine the scene, a grand ceremonial hall in the Vatican. Everything perfectly arranged, and the air just buzzing with anticipation. Dignitaries from all over, a whole bunch of media, cameras at the ready, waiting to capture every little detail of this important meeting. Pope Leo XIV, who had already made a name for himself with his quiet intensity since his recent election, was known as a pretty thoughtful guy. His papacy was starting to focus on deeper spiritual meanings, moving away from what some might call just going through the motions. And into this electric atmosphere walks Karoline Leavitt. She's a well-known figure in American politics, famous for her confident style and how sharply she communicates. She walked up to the Pope, hand out, in that universal gesture of goodwill, of diplomatic respect. You know, trying to build a bridge between government and the church. It was definitely a moment for the cameras, sure, but also just a normal part of these high-level meetings. Everyone knew what to expect, a handshake, a few polite words, and the news would move on. But Pope Leo XIV? He had a completely different plan. One that nobody in that room, or anyone watching around the world, could have ever seen coming. As Karoline Leavitt held out her hand, Pope Leo XIV, simply dressed and seated, just didn't respond in kind. He looked at her offered hand, then his eyes met hers. And then, nothing. He kept his own hands folded right there in his lap. There wasn't any anger on his face, no frown, no words to explain why. Just this heavy, deliberate silence fell over the huge hall, making the tension almost unbearable with every passing second. For everyone there, and for the millions who'd soon see the footage go viral, it was a jaw-dropping break from tradition. That missing handshake? It was like a hole opened up. And into that hole rushed a flood of questions. Was this a snub? A calculated political move? Was he personally criticizing Leavitt or what she stood for? Or was it something much, much deeper, a message aimed not just at her?
This book is your beginner's guide to understanding Scripture. Find peace, build relationships, and discover purpose in today's world. Ready to decode the Bible? Find Bible Decoded available on Amazon now.
But at a world that maybe relies a bit too much on superficial gestures? The symbolism hit hard and fast, even if its exact meaning, in that instant, was hidden behind the Pope's mysterious silence. Those seconds felt like an eternity, each one just cranking up the shock in the room. Karoline Leavitt, you've got to give her credit, kept her cool, though you could definitely see the surprise on her face. The world watched, everyone holding their breath. And then, Pope Leo XIV moved. But not to shake her hand. Instead, in a twist that made things even more interesting, the Pope stood up. He turned, not to Leavitt at first, but towards a small, plain wooden table nearby. On it, almost hidden until that very moment, was a simple silver basin, a pitcher of water, and a plain towel. For anyone familiar with Christian traditions, the meaning of these items started to click, hinting that this wasn't just some social blunder, but a very deliberate, symbolic act about to play out. He then gestured, inviting Karoline Leavitt to join him near this humble little setup. The feeling in the room went from shock to an almost painful level of anticipation. What on earth was the Pope doing? What did all this mean? The handshake was off. But something else, something totally unexpected, was about to happen instead. Pope Leo XIV, with Karoline Leavitt now standing by the table.
Feeling anxious or disconnected? Ready for a deeper faith journey designed just for you? Discover Bible Study for Black Women. This guide nurtures faith, strength, and growth week by week. Overcome fear and connect with God. This empowering journey is waiting. Find Bible Study for Black Women on Amazon today and start building unshakable faith.
Didn't launch into a speech or try to explain the refused handshake. Instead, he started a ritual that brings to mind one of the most powerful acts of humility in Christianity: the washing of feet. He gestured towards the basin, inviting Leavitt not to a power game, but to be part of an act that symbolizes service, cleansing, and mutual respect, basically. Cutting through all the usual political showmanship that comes with these kinds of meetings. This wasn't about showing dominance or making a point in the usual way. It was an invitation to step away from the predictable political drama and connect on a completely different level. One of shared humanity and spiritual meaning. The Pope's actions seemed to be saying that real connection, real dialogue, needs more than just a quick, routine handshake. It needs a genuine willingness to be humble and to serve. Only after this deeply symbolic ritual, after this completely unexpected turn that changed the whole vibe of the meeting, did Pope Leo XIV finally offer his hand to Karoline Leavitt. And this time, she took it. The handshake, when it finally happened, wasn't just some diplomatic formality anymore. It was filled with the weight of everything that had just happened. Transformed from a gesture of potential political gamesmanship into one of mutual recognition. A shared experience of something far from the usual halls of power. It was a handshake. As people pointed out, not of winning or losing, but of a humbling, shared understanding. The second those initial images and videos, the refused handshake. Then that astonishing ritual hit news channels and social media. The world just exploded. Headlines were everywhere. Pope refuses handshake, then offers redemption. A ritual older than nations, Vatican stunner, Pope Leo XIV rewrites diplomatic rules. Social media just went into a frenzy. Hashtags like hashtag Pope Handshake, hashtags Vatican Humility, and hashtags Leavitt Leo Moment were trending for days. The debate kicked off immediately and it was intense. Some people praised the Pope's actions, calling it a brave stand against political grandstanding, and a powerful reminder to get back to basic values like humility and service. They saw it as a brilliant example of symbolic leadership, using a global stage to send a profound spiritual message. Others were critical, thinking the initial refusal was disrespectful, an unnecessary break from diplomatic norms that he could have handled differently. Political analysts started picking apart what this meant for Vatican diplomacy and its relationships with world leaders, suggesting this could change how these kinds of meetings happen from now on. Religious leaders, commentators, and just regular folks all had something to say. Sermons were preached, podcasts were recorded, and opinion pieces were written, everyone trying to figure out the layers of meaning in what Pope Leo XIV did. Was it a critique of a certain political ideology? A comment on the nature of power itself? Or a deeply personal act of faith playing out for the whole world to see? The reactions were all over the place, as diverse as the global audience that saw it happen, but almost everyone agreed. This was no ordinary moment. It was like a sacred pause in our busy, ordinary world, a deliberate act meant to make everyone stop, watch, and really think. In the days and weeks that followed, both Pope Leo XIV and Karoline Leavitt gave some clues, directly or indirectly, about what that extraordinary moment felt like for them. Pope Leo XIV, choosing his words very carefully, made it clear that his actions weren't meant to be disrespectful, but came from a desire for something deeper. He was quoted saying, I did not come to exchange gestures for the cameras. I came to offer something deeper. This really showed his intention to move past just showy diplomacy and aim for real, authentic connection. When some Vatican officials reportedly questioned how unusual his actions were, suggesting the American public might see it as purely political, the Pope's reply was typically profound. They're free to see what they want. But those who have eyes to see will see something else. This pointed to his focus on the spiritual and symbolic meaning of the act, inviting people to look beyond just the surface. Karoline Leavitt, on her side, handled the whole unexpected situation with remarkable calm. While she was visibly thrown by the refusal at first, she adapted to what was happening and accepted the Pope's handshake. When it eventually came. Later, in more private moments. It's been reported that Leavitt found the whole thing transformative. She apparently wrote that the moment made her realize that true leadership isn't always about showing strength in the usual ways, but about recognizing something bigger than yourself. A powerful lesson in humility. Later on, at a town hall event, Leavitt publicly described the Vatican experience as deeply impactful, stressing that humility and service are essential for any leader, suggesting the Pope's message had really hit home for her personally. This single, yet incredibly layered event, touched on several really big themes, starting a global conversation that went way beyond the initial shock. First off, it really threw a spotlight on that constant, age-old tension between worldly power and spiritual humility. You had Karoline Leavitt, representing political clout, meeting Pope Leo XIV, who chose to embody a leadership based on service and humility. The dramatic refusal, followed by that ritual of humility, really made people stop and question what true strength and leadership are all about. Is it about dominance and following the rules? Or is it about having the courage to be vulnerable and to serve others? Secondly, the Pope's actions were a powerful statement about choosing real symbolism over empty spectacle. In our media-crazy world, which is often full of gestures just for show, Pope Leo XIV deliberately turned down a hollow photo op. Instead, he created a moment packed with ancient symbolism, shifting the world's attention from the superficial side of political theater to the importance of timeless values like humility, repentance, and reconciliation. That basin, the water, the towel, those simple things became more powerful symbols than any perfectly planned handshake ever could have been. Finally, many see this incident as a possible turning point in how we define protocol, not just in diplomatic circles, but in how religious and secular leaders interact in general. Pope Leo XIV challenged the way things are usually done, suggesting that when influential people meet, they could, and maybe should, focus more on moral and spiritual meaning, instead of just political symbolism. Analysts are still debating the long-term effects, but there's a feeling that this event might have set a new example, encouraging leaders to look for more meaningful ways to connect, to be more authentic, and to be willing to step outside the usual comfort zone of tradition to send messages that have real weight. The world saw that sometimes, the most powerful statements aren't made with words, but with actions that shake up our whole understanding of power. So, what do you think it all meant, the handshake refusal and everything the Pope did afterwards? Was it a divinely inspired lesson in humility? A clever political message? Or something else entirely? A lot has been said, but this conversation is definitely not over. We really want to hear what you think. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy exploring these kinds of pivotal, world-changing moments, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more looks into the events that shape how we see leadership in the world. Those events on May 25, 2025, where Pope Leo XIV first refused Karoline Leavitt's handshake, then invited her into that profound ritual of humility before finally offering that delayed greeting, became so much more than just a quick news story. It grew into a defining moment, a powerful living picture that echoed far beyond the Vatican walls. The dramatic symbolism of the Pope's actions, alongside the personal motivations and later thoughts from both him and Karoline Leavitt, didn't just kick off a global debate, it struck a much deeper chord. It challenged long-held diplomatic customs. It made us question the superficiality of public image. And it offered a stark, compelling lesson on what true leadership really is. One where humility, service, and authenticity can outshine all the usual shows of power. The world was initially stunned by the refusal, absolutely. But as the whole story unfolded, that shock turned into something much more profound, a sense of awe, a moment for everyone to just pause and reflect. In a gesture that was both a refusal and an invitation, Pope Leo XIV didn't just interact with a political figure. He pulled the entire world into a conversation about what it truly means to lead, to connect, and simply to be human in a world that's often so divided. It was a moment where, for a brief, unforgettable time, humility clearly won out over spectacle, leaving a lasting mark on everyone who saw it.